I was in New Orleans this past week, and on Friday night, my friend David Wesson and I went and saw a band called Bomo Bongo, and they played Congolese rumba type of music. And they played compositions by artists like Dr. Nico, and they had a bit of an educational component in between songs would talk a little bit about this music. I didn't really know anything about it, Congolese music from the 60s and 70s, and it's really groovy, and it's got like reverb guitar, like in tremolo style guitar. Really interesting. This guy is named Daniel Kulik, the guitar player, and he was fantastic. The whole band was amazing. And at one point in between songs, they gave a shout out to this local record store called Domino Sound Record Shack, I think it was. So I went the next day to ask about their Congolese music, and Matt said, "Oh, that's great. You were at the show last night. Yeah, aren't they awesome? This is the whole section. Check out all of this music from the Congo." So I told the man I'm going to have to come back and spend some time because there's a lot to go through here. He said, "Sure, why don't you come and check out my DJ set tomorrow night? Everyone who works here at the store is going to be DJing." So we went the next night to this place called Vaughn's in New Orleans and heard them spinning classic 60s and 70s soul. And a lot of people were out dancing, having a good time. And then the next day I went back to Domino to learn more about the music and to buy a few records and ship them back to Boston. And I was thinking about something that Matt said. He said, I don't really go in on anything technology, streaming, all that modern stuff. I've got all these records. I work in the record store. I'm mostly just interested in listening to vinyl at all times, and that's my thing. And I was thinking, there's a lot of arguments about the aesthetic value of vinyl, but one of the best things is just the fact that you have invested your time in putting on that record, finding the record, shopping for it. You've put it on, and 15 minutes later, you're going to have to flip it over. There's a time investment, and that's something that I want to talk about this week, where we're talking about albums and audiobooks for Earth Tones episode 28. Yes, we're talking about albums and audiobooks, the things that take time in your life. But first, we're going to have an earth sound. Let's check it out. A beautiful sound from our beautiful earth. That, of course, is an old freight train. We were sitting at a stoplight down in New Orleans, and I said to David, "Oh, hold up." And I rolled down the window, and I recorded that. I said, that'll be perfect for an earth sound. This train, it went by, I swear it took it must have been 10 minutes for this thing to go by. It had just I think they were either like natural gas or gas of some kind, oil, but just tank after tank. And as soon as we got to the end of the train, it went back the other way. We couldn't believe it. It's ridiculous. Okay, for a bit of old news, I've got the same magazine that I had last week because I looked at the cover as I was putting it away and I saw this title. It said Robert Cray behind his Strat Scorching tribute to 60s R&B, and I couldn't resist that article. So 2 weeks in a row, this is guitar player from, I think about 2020, May 2020. And this is Robert Cray working with Steve Jordan. They recorded at the Capitol Records building, and they wanted to make an album that was like essentially a throwback, but with modern production, but the type of musical aesthetic of what they were describing as like the early Sam Cooke records, which is pretty great. So the interviewer asks him, "Since you perform constantly, what advice do you have for playing live?" And Robert Cray said, "It's always easy to fall back to just riffing. And what's that do? Now you've lost the groove with the song and you've lost your footing. Remember to always be in the song. That's one of the things that makes it fun to play on stage. Lock yourself into the song and don't get distracted by the audience or things going on around you. Don't let yourself get out of the moment that you're in. Remain in place and make the song what it could be and should be." that is such a great theme and a great reply from the master Robert Cray. What a singer Robert Cray is, for real. So that record that's what I heard is the name of the whole album. And he's got a few original songs, but a bunch of like classic tunes too, and a couple of deep cut soul tracks on it. It's great sounding. Steve Jordan plays drums on a few, but he produces the whole album. And yeah, staying within the song, that's a great lesson, a great reminder. It's not even just about being in the moment. It's about being part of that story that you're telling with the song. All right. So for our main discussion, albums and audiobooks. Here we are, episode 28, albums and audiobooks. Audiobooks are significantly easier to listen to with streaming services than previous formats. Take audiobooks on CD, for example. There would be several CDs you have to switch between, but also you have to keep track of the timestamp if you want to go back to where you left off. At least on cassette, the tape would stop and stay where you switched off the machine. Audiobooks on streaming platforms, of course, allow you to dive back in whenever you like, exactly where you left off. So, outside of sheer convenience of access, there are really helpful features available on streaming services. Now, one of the challenges of the streaming era is how easy it is to bounce around. Spotify becomes an infinite jukebox playing singles. That can be a great music discovery feature where you're constantly hearing a new song from a new artist every 3 or 4 minutes, but it can deter us from immersing ourselves in an artist's catalog. If we draw a connection between music albums and audiobooks, we can appreciate that many works are best appreciated in their entirety. It's pretty unlikely you would shuffle the chapters of an audiobook, certainly not shuffling chapters of multiple audiobooks, although that does sound interesting in a bizarre, creative way. The key for me, faced with the abundance of content, is to go shopping for records within the streaming platform. How do you go shopping when you already have full access to something? Is there a cost? What is the currency you're shopping with if you already can listen to any of it? The cost is your time and what you're willing to pay attention to. What are you going to invest your time into? Even if you're not buying these records or audiobooks, which are you going to invest in? Which do you want to really get to know and appreciate? So I was thinking about this idea where, people like to go shopping. I like to go shopping at the record store. And of course we have limitations. Those limitations can be helpful, like I only have $20 to spend, so I'm going to check out a bunch of records and I'm going to see which one speaks the most to me, and I'm going to invest in that. Sometimes we have no money, or our money is already spoken for, and say something like Spotify, we're paying $13 a month now. So you have invested in this and we have to make the most of it. One of the things you can do, I was thinking about how you can do this with your closet too. It can be fun to go pick out new clothes, but you might have clothes that you just haven't been wearing or haven't thought to combine into a new combination of different styles or something into a new kind of outfit. So you can go shopping in your own closet. You can go shopping in your own refrigerator. You can go shopping in your pantry. You can go shopping with things that you already have, just looking for things that you already have access to, but giving them a little bit more attention and seeing how they might fit into your life. Now with streaming, if you go shopping for a record, you can see it as like, all right, I'm not just going to sample this, I'm going to invest in this. So let me find something that means something to me. That might be researching who is someone that you might like, or who is historically significant, or what might be an essential artist within a style that you like. It might be who did the musicians that I like listen to, or it might be the other way. It might be what is happening right now, and you can find blogs, you could find traditional critics like Pitchfork Media, but you could find all sorts of things. You could ask a friend, what's something that I should pay attention to, right? We pay attention in the same way that we pay money for something. And then when you pick something, just like an audiobook, commit to the idea of I've invested in this or I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to check the whole thing out. And you might find that you really like a certain artist or a certain album, even if it needs to grow on you. That's one of the hard parts about the streaming era is that we don't let things grow on us because we can always flip to something next. We can always say next. We can always say new artist and jump around. But if you've invested in something, even if it's just your mental investment in saying, I'm committed to spending the time on this, then you'll actually check it out and you'll form an opinion. And if you don't like something, even if you give it a fair shake and you don't like it, because you've given it a fair shake and you've listened to it, you've still learned more about your musical taste. You've become more informed about why you don't like something. You could say, I don't like this album, XYZ, because when that artist started making these records in the 80s, they sound like this and I don't like them. That's great. That's still a musical journey that you've now formed an opinion based on. All right, for a musical demonstration, this is a riff. It's a riff that comes from a song called This Man off that Robert Cray album. So one thing that you can do, if you've got what we could call an ostinato or a repeating figure, is to just really say that's the only thing I'm going to play for a while and just check it out. You could put on a metronome on the backbeat, so it's clicking 1, 2, 4, 2, 4. And you can think about pushing and pulling with that. Play it in different octaves. And just let it groove. I did this one video on YouTube before that was play one note for a whole hour. And, I got it from Steve Vai, I think. You can do different kinds of vibrato, use any different finger. You can use your whammy bar or whatever, but you can only play that one note for a whole hour. And within an hour, you've gotten all these new techniques to how to vibrate a note or how to approach picking that note. You get a lot of insight into doing something if you're willing to just make it sort of a meditation. So there might be a riff that you can play, or it could be that one from This Man by Robert Cray. Note that I'm down a whole step. It's actually, which sounds like a Band of Gypsies transposition. Like in Power of Soul, they keep transposing. So, yeah, repeating a riff until you get it sort of in your spirit. And a lot of things loosen up. Your hands start to get kind of warm. And you can really develop the sense of a size of a beat. That's how my teacher, Anthony Weller, used to describe it. He said when you start working with a metronome and it's not clicking on all 4 beats, but it's only once a measure or just on the backbeat, you become aware of how big a beat really is. You can be on the front side, the back side, or right in the middle. So what's on the turntable this week? This is the untitled 4th album from Led Zeppelin. I typically call it Zeppelin 4. Some people call it Zoso. Robert Plant calls it the 4th album. It's legendary. What else can we say about Zeppelin 4? I had this on cassette when I met my dad's friend David, who's from Birmingham, England, and grew up with John Bonham and the guys from Led Zeppelin. And he was so surprised that I was listening to this album, Led Zeppelin 4, on cassette when I was a little kid. And it started a great conversation about the origins of the band and Birmingham, England. There's no text on this whatsoever. There is the insert that tells you the songs, but there's no information about who the band is, what it is. And I heard that they had to really fight for that. Jimmy Page wanted it to be untitled and wanted to make it a little bit more difficult for critics to compare it to other albums that they had made, Zeppelin 1, 2, or 3. So this de facto becomes Led Zeppelin 4. It's what I pulled off the rack. And at first I thought, I don't know if I'm going to listen to Zeppelin 4. And then I thought, nope, that's what I pulled off the rack. And obviously I put it on. I loved every second of it. It's amazing. that's another one of the benefits. I wasn't probably going to stream Zeppelin 4 this week because I'm listening to all this New Orleans music, but because of having curated a collection, I have Zeppelin 4, and because it's in my collection, I've invested in it. I love it. It's there. It's waiting to be played at any given time. I pulled it out, and of course I enjoyed it. It's one of the greatest, if not the greatest rock albums of all time. Okay, something that helped me this week. I had an insight this week, which was that my fears are inaccurate. And I hope that maybe if you're listening, this could be something that could help you this week too. If you think about something you're worried about, it's not only that it's perhaps dramatic, but it might be really inaccurate. And I don't know if I'm going to say too much about that, but if you have any given fear about your music, or how other people might perceive your music, or whether or not this practicing that you're doing is leading somewhere, or whether or not the song idea that you have is any good, it might be helpful for you to keep in mind that you probably have no idea. And your fear is not just unhelpful, but it might be completely inaccurate. And you might be afraid that something that you're doing isn't going to work, and it is, and just maybe tuck that in your back pocket as something that could help you in a jam if you think, oh man, I put my time into this, and I'm not sure if it's worth it. Just keep in mind, well, that anxiety about that fear, not only might it be like unfounded and you don't need to worry about it, but it might actually be totally wrong. So I don't know if that means anything to you. This is Earth Tones, episode 28. I'm Jake Pardee signing off. Thank you as always for listening. I appreciate it. I hope you're having a very musical week. Visit JakePardee.com for more information about me and my music, and MaritimeRecording.com for more information about you and your music and how we can work together. I've had a wonderful diversity of musical projects I'm working on this week, so I would love to add your project to that stable of artists. Can we say that? Stable of artists? You're not a horse. I'm not a horse. But send me some music. Let me know what you're working on. All right, I'm Jake Pardee, reminding you we are a fantastically musical species on a distinctly musical planet. And I will see you for Earth Tones, episode 29.